I am Supreme, and this is an Astro Oracle investigation request from one of my subscribers. Shout out to Mr. Abraham Isaac, who brought to my attention the case of missing girl who was 12 years old and 9 months pregnant back in December of 1996 by the name of Celina Mays of Willingsboro, New Jersey. That is the Astro Oracle investigation today. Once again, thanks to Abraham Isaac for bringing this to my attention. And without further ado, we're going to get into it. I have a lot to cover. I did do some research on the Celina Mays case. I watched some videos. I looked up some files and got as much information as I could on the case, because that helps me tap into the energy and I let the cards do the rest. Okay, so please like, share, comment, subscribe, and hit the bell button so you will be notified when I do investigations. Okay, also below in the link is a tutorial to a video where you can click on any sign, symbol, house number, or planet that you will hear me talk about or point out in any of my charts or pull in any of my cards, so that way you will understand how I formulate my stories and you will be educated on these signs, these planets, and these houses, so you can see the magic raw and uncut for yourself. Okay, so I'm going to be pulling cards and I'm going to be showing you what decks I'm going to be pulling from as I'm talking about the timeline of events of Celina Mays that are pretty much facts that were distributed by the media. Okay, and then we're going to begin the Astro Oracle investigation. Okay, I do have the planetary alignment of when she was born and the planetary alignment of when she went missing. Celina Mays was born May 21st, 1984. I have that planetary alignment in front of me, and she went missing December 15th, 1996. And I also have that planetary alignment in front of me that will assist me in tracking her whereabouts, so we can find out what happened to Celina Mays, and is she alive or is she dead, and where is she located at. So she was 12 years old December 15th, 1996 when she went missing, and she was 9 months pregnant. She was due December 29th. Okay, she was last seen going to bed. The family went to church that evening, and then they came home early. They ate dinner, and then Celina went to her room after 11 p.m. Okay, and she was no longer seen ever again from December 15th, 1996. Today is June 3rd, 2025. Celina Mays has still not been found, and nothing has come forth of information pertaining to her whereabouts. Okay, so let's talk about her childhood right quick. Her childhood involved domestic violence and drug abuse, alcoholism from her parents. Okay, not too long after Celina was born, her parents they split up. They separated. They went their own separate ways, but they also went to clean up their lives as well. Celina moved in with her mother, and her father went to live with his relatives to, I'm going to place this card right here, went to live with his relatives to get his life in order as well. Okay. Now, her mother kept Celina from her father. Okay. I'm going to be pulling from my crime deck too, because there's definitely some crimes involved. Once I finish going down this timeline, then we're going to flip the cards over and we're going to talk about what's really happened, what's going on. So, yeah, her mother kept her from her father because her mother felt like, being that her father was a member of this church, she felt like this church was like a cult, which was, in her words, it was like a cult. And she did not feel comfortable with Celina around her father. Okay, so eventually the mother passed away of a brain aneurysm, and Celina went to live with a family friend. While Celina was with the family friend, her father, after having some time of cleaning up his life, mustered up the courage to go to court and fight for custody. And he won. And Celina moved in with her father and his wife. Now, they were living in a house that was financed by a church that they all were members of. Okay, so the house that her father lived in was like a group home sponsored and financed by the church for other church members to live there. It was said that about 15 members were living in that home. So there was a lot of people, and some of them were family and some of them weren't. Okay, the family members that did stand out, which is came out in the media, were her father. I think she had siblings too that lived there, but also a cousin. And the reason why her father and her cousin is in question, because there are rumors that her father could have fathered the baby that she was pregnant with. And if it wasn't her father, it was her cousin. So the father cleared his name by proving that he had a vasectomy, so he couldn't be the father of, his daughter's baby, which would have been sick. But even if the cousin is the child's father, that's still sick. And the reason why the cousin is in question, because even after he cleared his name, you know, um, he has a case of raping two other girls in that church and getting them pregnant. So he has a history of that. Okay, he has a track record of doing that. That's why they feel like it was the cousin who is the father of Celina's baby. Now, Celina's aunt is the head of the church, which is her cousin's mother, the cousin that lived in the home with Celina and her dad and his wife. Okay, now Celina's aunt, who is the head of that church, is the father's sister. They said the aunt ruled that church with an iron fist. She was very strict. Okay, so, and I hear that Celina's life did not get better. Um, Her life did not get better when she moved in with her father and his wife, because she got pregnant at 11. Okay, and that was the main event. I'm going to be pulling from my Who deck. We're going to see who's involved. Hopefully, we come up with a suspect, the father, okay, and the person responsible for her disappearance. And if she's dead, we're looking for the person responsible for her death. Okay, so I'm going to be pulling two Who cards because we want to find out who the father is, and we also want to find out who's responsible for her disappearance. And if she's dead, excuse me, we want to find out who's responsible for her death. So, Celina's pregnancy was the main. Excuse me, my throat is dry. I had to drink some ginger ale. So her father, had an issue with Celina's pregnancy. Of course, she was 11 years old. Okay, so he kept asking Celina who the father was, and Celina wasn't clear with him, but she did tell him that it was a 16-year-old who wasn't a member of the church. That was Celina's words, and she left it at that. So the father, still tried to get it out of her who the father was, and he told her that we can get a blood test done to find out who the father was. And, him and Celina went back and forth with that. So I'm quite sure she feared for the security and safety of her baby. Okay, and she probably felt like they were going to take her baby from her. Okay, so of course the church persecuted her. An 11-year-old pregnant, You know, they called her all kinds of names. The aunt was saying that she was fast. She slept around. That's why she ran away, because she was pregnant and she didn't want nobody to know who the father was. You know, so a lot of things were said. You know, Celina had a very rough upbringing. Okay, she didn't have the best of upbringings. I'm gonna pull two Who cards. So, you know, and then I'm going to pull two Lost and Found cards, and then we're going to pull one evidence card. This is my Lost and Found deck. Okay, this is going to help us find the body and some evidence. We're going to find some people. Okay, we're going to find some people. Mainly this Lost and Found deck, because I got to give an intention as well, is going to be for locating Celina or anybody that has something to do with it that is still living today. So we're going to pull two Lost and Found cards. Okay. I feel like this whole deck that I pulled already, these cards that I pulled already, man, y'all about to witness some magic and sorcery for real. The real magic of my spiritual art and craft of tapping into energy and pulling cards, letting the cards speak for themselves, letting the energy speak for itself. This is my evidence deck. I'm going to be pulling two cards from this evidence deck. This is going to help us find evidence of Celina's disappearance, if she's gone, her body, and whatever happened. Okay? So yeah, December 15th, 1996, Celina ate dinner. She went to her room, and that was the last her family heard of her. Okay, they woke up the next day, cooking breakfast. Her parents told her sibling, go get your sister Celina out the room and tell her to come eat breakfast. Her sibling went to the room, told Celina breakfast is ready. Celina never came out. The sibling went back to the room, pulled the covers back, and saw that nothing but pillows were there in the shape of a body. So it was intentional. You know, Celina intentionally left home. Okay? And she wanted to distract the family. You know, my personal opinion, I feel like that was staged. My personal opinion is I do feel like the father has something to do with her disappearance and the cousin. And I personally feel like the church knows something too. Okay. I personally feel like Celina's baby, her pregnancy for one, put everybody on blast because for one, she was 11 years old. And I don't understand why Child Protective Services were not involved, but I'm going to stay out of that. Okay. But they were hiding Celina. The church even took her out of school. Okay, they kind of took Celina's life away from her. Like they did stopped her from watching television and all of that. The church took her out of school and they homeschooled her. Okay, she couldn't watch television, so she really had no social life. You know, she probably felt like a caged animal. So pull two evidence cards, put them right here. All right. She probably felt like a caged animal. Okay, so when she did finally get out, whenever she did get out, well, she probably snuck around a lot to do what she had to do, what she wanted to do, to give her a sense of life, you know. So, you know, kids are going to be kids, you know, but I mean, it's not ordinary that an 11-year-old gets pregnant, you know. So I'm not going to do too much talking about my opinion of it because I'm tapped into that energy. And all these cards, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 cards is going to tell the story. Okay, so let me keep her alignment up here and let's get to, we're going to pull the first card, which is the Zodiac card, which is going to open up a chart. Scorpio in the 11th house. Okay, so when Scorpio is in the 11th house, that is a Capricorn rising chart. Okay? When Capricorn is rising, that is the father figure. That is a person who is influenced by the father. That is a 10th house chart. Okay? When Scorpio is in the 11th house, this is a 10th house chart. Okay? Now, it's ironic, and it's not ironic, that the 11th house is the key, because that is the house of codes. That is the house of groups. That is the house of organizations. That is the house of memberships, group activities, sororities, fraternities, congregations. Okay? Scorpio energy is there. Okay? Now let's see if Celina had any planets in Scorpio. She had Mars in Scorpio. And Mars rules Scorpio. Mars is the planet of war. It is the planet of how we fight for what we want and how we fight to protect ourselves from what we don't want. Okay? Mars also represents how we pursue, okay, our independence. Mars is our defense mechanism. So when it is in Scorpio, it is our most sexual kundalini energetic nature. Okay? Sex is the life force of existence. It's not just about two bodies that come together and create a baby. It's also about two principles that come together to create. It's about the triangle, the Father, Son, Holy Ghost, mother, father, child. It's about the Trinity. Okay? That's why Scorpio energy is the life force. It is about transformation, it is about life, and it is about death. It is about how things transition from one stage to the next. It is about the death of the body, the death of a job, the death of a relationship, the death of whatever it is, the death of a loved one. It represents death, and it represents life and resurrection. The resurrection of employment, the resurrection of a person, the resurrection of health, the resurrection of wellness, the resurrection of people, places, and things. Okay? So, when this energy is in the house of cults, that means this is the ruling energy. Okay, this is letting us know that 9 times out of 10, the baby's father is a member of this so-called cult, the church, the organization. Okay, so let's pull over the rest of these cards and then we're going to talk about it. Okay. Things are starting to make sense. All right. Okay. All right. Okay, here we go. Now, let's talk about it. So, we also have another 11th house card, which is the witness. Okay? So, there is a witness. And this is from the Who deck. This might be the witness that's still living. Okay? Because the other Who is an accessory. And the accessory in the 7th house is a family member. And that family member is the mother. Okay? Because Cancer is the mother energy. But we're going to get to that. Okay? Because this energy right here, this accessory right here is hiding. Okay? She may be the one in the picture of hiding Celina, or she's hiding something. The mother knew something. The mother's family, because the mother has passed away. But the mother did know about the lifestyle that Celina's father was living with this church that was supposed to have been a cult. Because, whether it was a cult or not, I do believe the church was up to something hidden and secret that the mother knew about. So the mother wasn't lying. And this is why that accessory card came out. Because being that the mother's gone, this represents the mother's family. Okay, because when the father fought for custody while Celina was living with the friend of the family after her mother passed away, the mother's whole family fought against the father. So Celina's whole mother's side of the family is involved in the picture. So they know where the father is. Okay, so I'm quite sure that somebody on that side of the family is playing a role in the disappearance of Celina. Okay, now let's get back to this 11th house. Okay, this 11th house right here. Okay, and the reason why I said this may be the father of the child, the member of the cult, is because when you look inside of Scorpio's actual house, because the 11th house is Aquarius's house. Okay, and Aquarius is in the second house of money because, like I said, this was a cult, an organization, a congregation that financed Celina's security, domestic security, and her father's domestic security. So, a member of the cult or the congregation of the church, the program, even if it wasn't a member of the program, like Celina said, this 16-year-old wasn't a member of the church. I'm quite sure he was a part of something that the church was doing to help him, whether he used to be or whether he was currently, okay, or whether he was a direct member of the church or an indirect member of the church. He could have been somebody that just worked there or helped out every now and then. Either way it was somebody that was in contact with Celina to the point where he was able to get away with impregnating an 11-year-old girl. I do believe this. I do believe that the father is who Celina said that the father was. Okay? So, and this is the witness because I believe the father is still living. Okay? So, let's get back to this. Now, the evidence I see falls under the sixth house. The sixth house is the house of health, work, and employment. Okay? So, this is the drug and medical evidence, and it's in the house of medical assistance. Okay, the sixth house is the medical house, and it's no wonder that the drug and medical evidence popped up in its own house. Now, what's going on in the sixth house? In the sixth house is where Celina is at. Why? Because she is a Gemini. When you look at her alignment, Celina was born May 21st, 1984. Her sun is in Gemini and her moon is in Pisces. So when you look at this chart, the chart that was pulled because Scorpio in the 11th house came out, look at the synchronicity of the chart. When you look at the chart, you will see Gemini in the sixth house. That's where Celina is. So there's some drugs and medical evidence. Okay? Drug and medical evidence there. Okay? And that's Virgo's house. The sixth house is Virgo's house. Where's Virgo at? Virgo is in the ninth house. Virgo is at church, in the cathedral, at the church. The ninth house is the house of churches. That is Sagittarius' house. Okay? Now, where's Sagittarius at? Sagittarius is in the 12th house. That is Pisces' house. That is the house of the hidden. Okay? So the church's energy is hidden. Like I said, the church is hiding something. And what is it hiding? It's hiding information on everything that it knows about Celina and what happened. Okay? They're hiding it. And that's why this 12th house card was pulled. Look at that. Religious abuse in the 12th house. And Sagittarius in the 12th. Sagittarius is the energy of religion. That is the religious energy that belongs to the ninth house. There is a ninth house card that was pulled, and it's a wooded area. And look, this is the lost and found card. Celina's body is in a wooded area. right there by the church. It's in a wooded area. Okay? Now, in the fourth house, because the other lost and found card came out in the fourth house. And this is the fire and destruction card in the fourth house. The religious abuse is the crime. Religious abuse. Okay? The church knows something, and they're abusing their principles and what they stand up for. They abused it. That's why we don't know where Celina is, because they have something to do with it. And they know God don't like ugly. They'll be the first to tell you. The church would be the first to tell you God don't like ugly. But sometimes they be the first ones. Well, I'm not going to make any judgments on that. I'm just reading these cards. It's telling a story. We see her mother's family as the accessory. Somebody in her mother's family. Now, I see digital evidence and documents in the fifth house. That's the house of children. And in the fifth house, I see Taurus. That's Leo's house. Okay? Now, where's Leo at? Leo is in the house of sex. Leo is in Scorpio's house, the eighth house. That is the house of sex. That is Scorpio's house. Leo is the energy of children. That is where her child is. So in order to find out where the father is, we got to look at where's Scorpio at. That was the first card pulled in the 11th house. The Scorpio energy is in the group, in the congregation, in the organization, in the membership, in the cult. Are y'all following me? Energy does not lie. And that's also where there's a witness there too. I don't think this is the same person as this. Okay? This is the father, but this is a witness. This witness is still living. I believe the father's still living too, but this witness is still living. Not only that, this Scorpio in the 11th house colors what type of cult we're talking about. This is a sexual cult, sex trafficking. Anytime Scorpio energy with Mars there is in the house of groups and organizations, what type of groups you think is going on? This is a sex group. This is sex trafficking. Celina is not the only victim. And where's Aquarius at? Because this is Aquarius's house, the 11th house. Look where Aquarius is at. It's in the second house, the house of money. Why? Because this is a sex trafficking cult. This is a sex trafficking cult that was going on undercover, and it was being ran out of that church, hiding behind the image of God, of what they believe is God. Lost and found, a wooded area. If she's dead, her body is in the wooded area in the ninth house. This digital evidence and documents in the fifth house can be found in the fifth house. Taurus is there. What's going on in Taurus's house? Aquarius. Taurus is the second house. Aquarius. That is where the sex trafficking is going on. Okay? They need to pull them call laws. Because remember, this was back in 1996. Back in 1996, they didn't really have as much media as they have now. They didn't have all the social medias and, the iPhones and, but the digital evidence and documents. Digital evidence and documents. Okay? About this case. This is the house of children. and about the father of Celina's baby. Okay? Digital evidence and documents is what they need to pay attention to. This is the evidence card. Okay? Now, this drug and medical evidence, okay, that's in the sixth house is governed by Gemini energy. Okay? And Celina was a Gemini. The sun was there. Okay? So Mercury is the planet that rules Gemini. So where was Mercury at? Mercury was in Taurus. And guess where Taurus is at? In the fifth house. You see how we connected the dots? These two cards are connected. The drug and medical evidence and the digital evidence and documents in the house of children. These two cards go hand in hand. Okay? Now, the witness and the first card that was pulled that proves that this is a sex trafficking cult, okay, is Scorpio. Now, where was Pluto? We know the Mars was in Scorpio. Mars rules Scorpio, but where was Mars at December 15th, 1996? Because that's what's going to elaborate on this sex cult. Mars was in Virgo. And look at where Virgo is. In the ninth house. That's where the church is. That's the cathedral. That is, like I told you, that is where the sex trafficking cult was taking place out of. That was headquarters. That was the main office. Energy doesn't lie, y'all. Y'all following me? That's the main office. This fire and destruction, I believe, is gunfire. Okay, because it's in the fourth house. And Aries is there. Okay? And Aries is the energy of self. Okay? So it may be a burnt body. Okay? Because Aries represents the body. And in the first house, because that's Aries' house, but Capricorn is there. And this is a Capricorn chart. Okay? Now this fire and destruction, where did it take place at? Well, let's follow Mars again. Because remember I told you Mars rules Scorpio and Aries. So in order to connect the dots on where Mars is at, to find out, to elaborate on this fire and destruction, Mars on December 15th, like I just said, is in Virgo. Back at the church. This wooded area at the church. Now, they could have burnt her body, her and the child. Okay? And bury the ashes right there on the church property in the woods. Now, either her body was burnt in a wooded area or it was professionally cremated. You know the church has access to the crematory. They work together. The church, the crematory, and the funeral home. They work together. And remember, this is a cult that sex trafficking is running out of. Celina is not the only victim, and she's not the only burnt victim. She's not the only victim buried in plain sight. They could be putting these bodies in other people's caskets, under other people's tombstones. Y'all ain't hearing me. I'm just reading the cards. So this religious abuse that's in the 12th house, yeah. Sagittarius, Jupiter is the planet that rules Sagittarius. Now, where was Jupiter at on December 15th? Jupiter was in Capricorn, and this is a Capricorn rising chart. Capricorn is the first son. Yeah, religious abuse. And her father is a part of it. He's not the father of the child, but he's a part of this religious abuse. He is definitely a part of this religious abuse. Now, I believe another thing too, and I don't care what nobody say. Her father may not be the child, but her father definitely played a role in molesting her. He had a vasectomy or whatever, but her father, Celina, was sexually assaulted and sexually violated. She has a history of being sexually violated. Anytime I see Leo energy in the 8th house, and this Mars in Scorpio, cult in the house of cults, that's sex trafficking. This girl was sexually violated ever since she was a child. So y'all tell me what y'all think. But that is my reading on Celina Mays. If you would like a personal reading with me, reach out to me at my email in the link below. And once again, shout out to Abraham Isaac for bringing this case to my attention. And hopefully there's some justice that gets served. Hopefully somebody that's still living today, or hopefully somebody that has links to this case watches this video and they reopen the case. Because I will tell you one thing. The Who, remember I told you I'm going to pull 2 cards from the Who deck to see where can we find somebody today that can give us answers. Because Celina's father is dead. Her mother is dead. The cousin that they claim was the baby's father is dead. The aunt, who was the head of the church, is dead. We don't know if her husband is still living. We never know. He might be the witness. You know, we don't know if he's still living or not. But everybody else that's involved is dead. But somebody is still living today, June 3rd, 2025. And these 2 cards right here are the key to these people that are still living. They were members of that church. Somebody in Celina's mother's side of the family is the accessory. And somebody that's a member of that church back in 1996. They need to go back to 1996, look at the roster of all the members that was in that church, or even the members that was in that house, that was living in that house that the church financed, and they're going to find answers. This person is the key to that answer. The father's still living too. So y'all tell me what y'all think.